Hi guys, my name is Nairi and I'm back again with another video on first experiences for our boys, and today we're going to talk about their first experience of nursery. You will see on my channel there is another video about how to choose a nursery for your adopted children, and my channel is all about adoption, family life and all the things that we've come across. It's down to our experiences, which may well be different from yours, but I hope my channel helps you, and if you think it might, please take the time to subscribe. You'll see a pink button down below in the corner. And today I'm going to describe to you how we made a decision on the nursery that we sent our boys to and what that entailed and what it was like when they first started. So I'm going to try and keep it positive because lots of my videos talk about challenges, and there are some challenges in this video, but this is a positive video about their experiences. So the first thing that I did was take a good look around at my local nurseries to see what was out there, because at the time I was a nursery owner of my own chain of eight nurseries, so I kind of knew the types of things that I was looking for the boys. I was really nervous, as I'm sure you will be, in kind of losing them out of my grasp and thinking about how they were going to be on their own without me and worrying about that, because they were extremely limited in speech. I think by the time we were allowed to send them to nursery, because we were fostering them at the time, they probably had a few words, but that was it. And they were, I think they were kind of 2.5 and 3.5 when we sent them to nursery. So we weren't allowed to send them for the first few months at least, I seem to remember. So I should say, so I think my husband was working, had a good look around. I went to a couple of local preschools, which I didn't like. You know, they were either just, the facilities weren't great or the staff weren't that friendly. And I knew that the key thing that I was looking for was friendly staff, and staff that were willing to chat about the situations that we'd found ourselves in with the boys and take note of what they needed. So that was my key thing that I was looking for. And I also wanted it to be local. I wanted to be able to kind of walk there. So that limited obviously where I was going to choose. So went to this place and happened to know the manager, which might have been an advantage or a disadvantage. I wasn't sure at that point because I knew her from the world of nurseries kind of thing. And went there, walked in, and my first impressions were that it was quite contained, which I thought was going to be really important for the boys, and that everything was well organised. The pegs were there with children's names on as I walked in. It was quite bright and light, and the activities were set out clearly defined. The areas were clearly defined, so it felt even smaller in a way, because the children were moving from section to section. I think what probably sold it to me was then the outside space, because the youngest of our two children, who I'm going to call Isaac for the sake of the video, that's not his name, but I'll call him Isaac, was very accident prone and seemed to have an issue with bumping into things and falling over, and we'd had quite a few accidents with him. So I wanted to see that the outside space was safe, contained, and that if he did fall over, it wasn't a really harsh floor, which it wasn't. And also the boys absolutely loved cars and riding and things, and the physical side, again, they needed a lot of development. They had development issues, but they really enjoyed outside, so outside was great. So that was a decision made when I saw the environment, and also the manager wanted to know a lot about the boys. She wanted to know a little bit about their background, and they were quite interested in the situation with their speech and things like that, and we discussed that quite a bit. So there was some real interest there about who the boys were. It wasn't a case of them showing me everything they had and then not being so interested in what I felt I needed from a nursery. So that was that. So then we walked there for the first day. We kept the sessions quite limited. I think probably they only went a couple of times a week, and we built it up from there. So we went in, and you know, I'm looking back now 8 years, so I'm trying to remember, but I seem to remember that the boys were probably right by my side, which sometimes they are now even, and I knew that they would need each other. So the other good thing about it was they weren't going to be separated out. So there's just over a year between them, but they were going to be able to be in a similar space. So he should have been somewhere else, but she allowed them to be together. And they kind of went off for their first day, and at the end of the day they were really pleased to see me. But she said, you know, they've stuck together, but they've done really well. And I got really good feedback, as in I got feedback from the key worker about how they'd done that day. And as soon as I saw the key worker and her level of interest in the boys, I thought, we're going to be okay, because she's going to have their backs. And that was the thing about this nursery. She did have their backs. She was only young, but she was really interested in their development and how they were doing. And she always tried to find me when I picked up the boys. And she'd sometimes come off her lunch break to say, you know, they've had a good day, or even they haven't had a good day. And I think that's important as well. You don't want to be kind of, I don't know, sort of fobbed off on, well, they've had a good day, but actually they haven't. And the other good thing I just felt about this place was that they were taking lots of photographs for their observations and their diary kind of books. And the photos were real, they weren't staged. They were, here are your two boys playing together in the little Tykes car, and they're having fun together, and you could see the boys were interacting with each other, which often they did in the photos. They were always near to each other, and they were taking observations, particularly around their speech, and making suggestions for the next steps around their speech. And for me, that was like crucial for them. But the really special thing about this place, which I found not everywhere would entertain or do, is that the boys had a fixation on particular teddies which we'd allocated to them when they first came to us, when we were fostering them. And Isaac had a small bulldog cuddly teddy, and James had a donkey. And you know what, they're 10 and 11 and they still have those exact toys in bed with them. They made an attachment. It was almost like when we weren't there, those teddies were representative of us and their safety net, and it really was real to them, and they wouldn't go anywhere without them. They had to go in a car with them, to bed with them, they carry them to the bathroom. So we were sort of like saying to the nursery, who probably didn't want children to have their own possessions being carried around, that it was essential that to start with they took these teddies with them for that attachment, and they let them do that. So every single photo they took for those observation books or those diaries, the boys have got, you know, Bobby, which was Isaac's little toy, and James's little toy was Ben. Bobby and Ben were everywhere. And when in the observations, the staff were always right, and Bobby did this and Ben did that. So they really took on board the need for that attachment and the need for that key worker to be there as much as possible for the boys, because nurseries will tell you they've got a key worker system. But I've run nurseries, and I know how hard that is if you've got staff sickness, and it doesn't always work in practice, but these did try and put this girl with the boys. And so time went on and they grew to love it. They didn't love it to start with. They probably wanted to be at home with me. And again, the reality is, if I had enough time, patience and energy, and in those days we had other foster children, then, you know, maybe it would have been better for them to continue at home with us for longer. I don't really know. I think for their speech, it was good that they went to nursery. And I know for a lot of you, you're going to have to go back to work. You're going to need your break. So you're going to, you know, you may definitely need a nursery. So sometimes it's not a choice, is it? So they didn't love it to start with, but I think they did love it as time went on. And I do think that it was a great help toward them settling in at school, and that was going to be a massive one, them settling in at school. So it was a great help toward that. So that's my nursery experience with the boys. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you think my channel is going to be helpful and enjoyable, and that you're going to pick up a few tips along the way, then please take time to subscribe, and I'll see you on my next video. Goodbye.